Hi, everybody. Welcome to AI Live.
AI Live. We have a very fun topic near and dear to my heart because I really do love this. And I think with all of these new stimulation, injection,
Regeneration.
regenerative things on the mark, I think this is the right time to bring one of the best people in the world who does a lot of speaking on this type of product. Unfortunately, we can't inject it here in the US, but we do use it for at least the topical usage, and hopefully this will lead into other things. But Dr. Stephen Land will be with us in shortly to jump into the salmon sperm, the polynucleotide. You guys know what it's all about.
As he calls it, the salmon jizz.
Salmon jizz. Lori loves that.
I told him in America we can't say jizz, but I mean, that's hilarious. But it's good. We've got Stephen he talks all over the world. I think he was just in like Dubai and stuff about polynucleotides. And since they can do it in England, I'm like, he could do all this stuff. So we really can pick his brain. So you guys bring your questions to the table so that, write them down right now. So bring some questions for him. And we've got questions and answers on a TV that we have here that we can see you and we can answer questions. And so can he. So this is going to be a great little educational hour with you guys.
Yep. So little housekeeping for us as always. Couple of classes that are coming up. What's going on, Lori?
We have on October 25th, we have Foundations for Aesthetic Injectors, which is called FOFI.
For five.
FOFI, Foundations for Aesthetic Injectors. This is something for people who kind of want to get into aesthetics or kind of see if they want to get into this specialty, see if it's for them. It's a great way to dip your toe in it and
Great
try
beginner
it.
class.
Really
You get
good.
to play with some of the fillers, learn how to mix reconstitute some
Yeah.
toxins, practice those type of things, and you can see some live injections and really get deep down and ask questions about it. And there's a little guidance on what you can do to start your practice or start your career in the aesthetic field, because I know everybody is looking at this field and going, it's great. And I will say there are great people that should definitely be in this field, and there are a lot of people who probably should stick in the medical field. It's just the truth, and I think the hard part is telling the truth sometimes. But I
Yeah.
think this is a great course for those to just dip your toe in the water and just see what it's all about. See if that's something that interests you, that you want to spend more time, money, effort to learn more about.
Yeah, there's a lot to
So
the specialty. So it's a
October
great
25th.
October 25th, and that's going to be all day. It's here in Brea, Southern
Yep.
California. The other one we have November 5th is our FOA class, which is our basic. It is our big class for Foundations of Advanced Aesthetics. Is for anybody of any level, an experienced, newer injector who's injected before to any level. And if you're a newer injector, fine. We teach you where to put the jelly and how to put it. If you're a more advanced injector and you're like, I just want to work on under eyes with a cannula, then you have each of us, one of the trainers, for an hour one-on-one. So that's what's so good about the FOA class is that you have didactic, it's CMA accredited, but you also get to come and we get to level you up. We get to help you feel better in a proctored situation so that you feel more comfortable being safer in your clinic. So that's going to be on November 25th or on November 15th. You have to take the didactic first, which is about 19 modules long, and you have to take that and take all the little tests, little quizzes afterwards so that you can get your CMEs for it. And then the class is on November 15th. So you have to prepare ahead of time to take all the hours of the 19 modules ahead of time. Yeah.
Also, we are December 13th, 10 a.m. We are doing a live stream on Beyond Occlusions. So this is beyond just occlusions. Things are dealing with toxin adverse events, other filler adverse events, lasers,
Hmm.
threads, you name it. We try and go over a lot of the different adverse events that are possibly out there and how do we potentially treat it. So that's why we called it Beyond Occlusions, because I know everyone focuses on occlusions, but let's go beyond that. There are other things that we are starting to do that are in your toolbox that you may have a little bit of oopsies, and how do we deal with them, and
Yeah.
what are the ramifications with regards to that.
Yeah, and we have in that we've got a part of it that's got an algorithm for you that you can actually take a picture of the slide, and we pull in from Patrick Tracy, Dr. Patrick Tracy, and Dr. Tom DeCates from a lot of their information. We pull it together, and we really have a great algorithm on how to treat delayed onset, early onset, nodules, inflammatory reactions. So it's really a great way to have a little key to help you with those filler responses.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be December 13th at 10 a.m. If you're interested, go ahead and scan that code right there.
Yep.
And then lastly is an ultrasound course, right? That's going to be ultrasound and aesthetics. That's going to be April 25th, 2026. So we're going into the next year.
Yeah.
Lori's going to be doing it with Candice Drury. And so if you're interested in ultrasound course, always great courses to get yourself up to speed on how to use the ultrasound and how we use it in aesthetic medicine. So that is up on the horizon. We'll
Come on.
see.
Come to the course, Kitty.
We'll see. We'll see where I'm at. But check out our website, theaestheticimmersion.com. I think we already have planned for next year already our cadaver course in August. So we're already booking into 2026. Yeah. So if you guys want to have a schedule of your potential educational experience with us for 2026, we are already starting to push that calendar.
Well, our calendar's booked for 26, I think.
So not that I wanted to be, but they forced me to choose dates.
We've got some good stuff coming up, you guys. And if you know us, you know we're all about quality and we're all about evidence-based information and very honest, and we don't gatekeep, we don't gaslight. We are, you know, if we made a mistake, we're going to tell you we made a mistake and here's how we fixed it. So I think our courses, have hit a note with providers worldwide because it's just what we need. We need to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, the honest. We're very different in how we practice, but yet we get great results, both of us. So I think it's so worth it to have that good comprehensive education, and we really give that to you. And we're really proud of that.
Yeah. And don't forget, we still have our mentorship programs. We have the 3 levels. Our founders is the top level where we jump on mentorship calls once a month with you guys. You get access to all of our libraries, 300 to 400 videos. Plus, you get the webinars that we do for free. We get hands-on courses where you get discounts. So you get a lot of benefits from joining our membership level. So check that out at theaestheticimmersion.com. Other than that, I think we're done with our housekeeping. So
no more housekeeping.
We get to really jump into this topic. It's something that I think is really, really, really cool. It's really about the power of polynucleotides. You know, unfortunately, here in the U.S., we still can't technically inject it. It's still considered illegal, so we can only use it topically. But we have renowned world expert, Dr. Stephen Land. Thank you for being with us.
All the way from England. And you guys in England, it is about 10 after 1 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. He was like, if I knew it was going to be 1 in the morning, my wife and kids are in bed. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Land. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And we want to learn, we want to pick your brain. We want to know everything we can about polynucleotides because they're so popular everywhere. But in America, our hands are we're in handcuffs. But we still want to learn about it. Doesn't mean we don't want to learn about it. So thank you so much for being with us.
There is rumor of FDA approval early next year.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Hopefully.
That's the rumor I'm hearing on the street. So hopefully this will all be really useful for you now. And then in 6 months' time, you can actually start using it properly.
That would be honestly amazing. Amazing. I've gotten injected on myself from when I was in Korea. So I definitely love the results with regards to that. And I do secretly have my staff inject me here. So
not going to make any names.
But I approve it as the right to try for myself. It's a right to try for myself. But kind of maybe introduce yourself.
Tell us about yourself.
Tell us about yourself, and then how long you've been using polynucleotides and what's been going on with that.
Well, I mean, you guys have already given me such a gracious introduction. You were kind of talking about getting this world expert on. I was kind of sitting here thinking, so when's he coming on? Because he's quite an interesting guy. So I'm Steve Land. I'm an aesthetic physician based up in the northeast of England. I've been in the field of aesthetic medicine for about 12 and a half years now, and I've been doing polynucleotides for about 2.5, kind of 3 years. Pretty much since they kind of arrived in the UK with any sort of kind of gravitas. They've been around for a while. We'll talk about that a little bit in the talk, where they came from and how long they've been around. But they only really kind of found their way into the UK about 3 years ago to any great extent. So I've been using them pretty much since they arrived here. So lots of experience of injecting them, into patients and friends and family and anyone who sits still for more than 5 minutes.
Awesome.
On my way.
Maybe we'll let you jump into your slide deck, and then we'll interrupt and get going with different questions that pop up as we go along.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have met me before. You know, I'm kind of fairly laid back about these things. So if there's questions that pop up, just wave a hand or shout up, and we'll kind of answer them as we go along. Or if you want to save them for the end, whatever works best for everyone.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you. All right, here we go.
Cool. So this should be my slide deck, and hopefully, oh, there we go. The remote seems to be working. So,
Love it. For fun or profit.
Wait, I got to back up a little bit. So, when I first started hearing about Dr. Land, and he was like, you were on some kind of a chat group with me. It's on WhatsApp. So it was like somebody international. I can't remember what it was. But you kept coming up with the funniest sarcastic humor ever. I so appreciated it. I know you were like, I don't know if everybody likes this humor. I'm like, you are so funny. So you guys just, he's got like a funny sense of humor. So if he talks a lot about fish jizz and stuff, it's just, it's him. Just,
So yeah, I think we met in a big international WhatsApp group, and myself and Jake Sloan, who runs it, he's a Brit by background. We had to spend about the first kind of 3 weeks explaining British humour to everyone else.
Poor Jake.
Yeah, generally the way it goes with British humour, the more you tear somebody down and kind of rip them apart, that means you quite like them. So we had to explain that, why me and Jake spent ages just tearing each other to shreds.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, so I was given the kind of topic of the science and application of polynucleotides, but that was a fairly boring title. And so this is actually what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to be talking about injecting fish jizz for fun and profit, why you might want to do it, and why your patients will kind of thank you for it. So if we can get the slides to advance. There we go. So this is me. I've kind of already introduced myself. I am based up in the northeast of England. I've been doing this for 12 and a bit years. I have an interest in regenerative medicine and aging as a disease because I'm old and I don't want to die.
There with you.
Yeah, I mean, who does? So this is kind of what I want to talk about today. We're going to go a little bit into kind of what polynucleotides are and where they come from. I may already have kind of given you a little clue as to where they come from. I was going to talk a little bit about how they work and what they get up to when they're injected or microneedled or however else you want to get them into the skin. And then I was going to cover a little bit of the kind of clinical evidence, because it's nice to pretend we practice evidence-based medicine most of the time. I was going to tell you a little bit about the products that kind of we have available in the rest of the world, just so you probably get a little bit of a sneak preview of what's hopefully coming for you guys next year. A little bit about the kind of techniques that we use, and then some results at the end, because everyone likes to see some nice snazzy before and after pictures of kind of what we can get up to. So what are polynucleotides? Where do they come from? Well, I thought we'd kind of start with some undergraduate biology and kind of go back to kind of what everyone remembers from what we call kind of A levels in this country. Polynucleotides are made up of mononucleotides, which are the building blocks of DNA. And if you take it back kind of even more basically, the mononucleotide is made up of kind of 3 separate bits. You've got the kind of phosphate, the phosphate group on the outside. You've got a little kind of pentose sugar that acts as a spine. And then you've got these 4 different bases, the kind of A, T, C, and G that everyone kind of remembers vaguely from when they were at medical school and kind of nursing school. And if you join some of these individual mononucleotides together, you get an oligonucleotide. And if you join even more of them together, you get a polynucleotide. And if you join lots and lots of them together, you get a single strand of DNA. And obviously, if you get 2 strands of DNA and let them all kind of join together, you get the kind of typical kind of double helix formation that we're all kind of fairly familiar with. So in essence, when we're talking about polynucleotides, we're talking about fragments of DNA. So where do we get these fragments of DNA from? Well, I teach and train for a company called Mastelli, who are a little Italian company based in San Remo. There are other companies out there, so I'm not kind of doing this to advertise this product particularly. It's just to give you an idea of kind of how they make theirs and where they've kind of come from. So they've been around since the 50s. And they actually started making polynucleotides in the 1980s. So although everyone thinks this is a new product, it's actually been around for about 40 years. And they originally were using it for kind of wound healing. So some of the original uses for polynucleotides were things like burns and skin grafts and diabetic leg ulcers and kind of wounds that wouldn't heal very well. We've gone back one. Go forward again. There we go. So as I say, they kind of started making these in the kind of 1980s and 1990s for wound healing. And then, as is the way with a lot of these things, someone thought, if these are really good for healing kind of injured skin, what happens if we just stick them into skin that's not injured per se, but just isn't quite functioning as well as we'd like it to? Will it make a difference? So Mastelli actually released the first aesthetic polynucleotide product in 2005, which is the one that we still use today. It's a product that's called Polynucleotide. So it's been around for, like, this year's its 20th anniversary. So again, like, everyone kind of thinks it's this brand shiny new treatment, but it's actually been around for 20 years. And for those that have seen the Mastelli product, the marketing department had their kind of intelligent hat on their day. So Polynucleotide stands for polynucleotides in aesthetics. So if anyone ever asks, that's what it stands for. And they also had the marketing department, obviously, were thinking kind of their caps on that day. And they get their polynucleotides, their DNA fragments, from fish DNA. And, it begs the question, why did they choose fish DNA? I mean, you can use DNA from kind of anywhere. You could use human DNA, you could use tree DNA. It doesn't really make any difference. But the reason they chose fish, and particularly kind of fish semen or fish sperm, whatever you want to call it, is that it's very easy to grow fish. Sperm is a kind of fairly renewable source. And it's very fresh and it's very new. It's not, the cells have obviously not been hanging around that long. They've not had time to pick up kind of all the kind of intracellular detritus that cells tend to pick up as they age. They're kind of made brand shiny new, and there's not really a lot else in there. There's some DNA in there to kind of pass along to the next generation of fish. There's some mitochondria in there to kind of power them along, but that's kind of about it. So if you start with a pure source, then it makes it obviously much easier to kind of purify it further to use kind of in a human product. And this is their kind of supply chain. They have their fish farms, which you saw on the previous slide, which are all in the kind of northern Italian Alps. They're very beautiful. I want to go and have a visit, but they won't let me. No one is allowed to go and visit the fish farms.
Oh,
wow.
Because they're so strictly controlled, they won't let anyone in there who hasn't passed all the qualifications to be in there and not accidentally kick a load of dirt into the pond and cause all sorts of problems. So I'd love to go and visit them, but no one's allowed. They're like these top secret fish farms.
Interesting.
But they're all kind of human food quality fish. So as you can see, as you go along the supply chain, they kind of the very kind of euphemistic gonad extraction, which I always think is a great little phrase. And then the rest of the fish get sent off to the local fish markets to be used for human consumption. You get the DNA, you fragment it down, you've got what they call their kind of HPT, their high purification technology, which is their kind of specific method of kind of filtering it and purifying it. It gets sterilized, it gets put into these very pretty syringes in these nice boxes, and then they sell it to me to stick back into patients. So if you want to get your sperm from your fish, it does beg the question, how do you milk a fish? Because
you horrible people.
Because we're all doctors and nurses, we have inquiring minds. We like to know these things.
I was just looking at gonad extraction to kill the fish. Now you're going to make us all go there, Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is how British works. This video isn't from the Mastelli factory, so this isn't exactly how they do it. This is a video that Jake Sloan from Inside Aesthetics podcast sent me because it's
great.
Oh no,
great.
no.
What did Jake give us?
So this is how you milk a fish. See, now you know. So if anyone ever asks, how do you milk a fish, you now know.
That's how you milk fish.
That's how you milk fish.
inquiring minds want to know these things. So that's where we get our DNA fragments from.
Are these all salmon? Are they different? Are they trout or what are they?
So in the Mastelli product, they use trout, and a couple of the other companies use trout, and a couple of the companies use wild salmon. And you know what it's like in the world of aesthetic medicine. They all have their reasons for doing what they do, and they will all tell you that their process of doing it is miles better than everyone else's. Mastelli's argument is because these are human quality fish that are grown in fish farms, they obviously have complete control over the life cycle of the trout, from egg all the way up to fully grown fish, and they can make sure it's fed and it's watered and it's looked after and it's seen by a vet every now and again, and it gets tucked into bed and read a bedtime story, and it gets kind of looked after for its entire life cycle. The guys that use wild caught salmon will argue that because it's kind of wild DNA and it's kind of wild type fish, they are therefore stronger and genetically better. So both kind of companies, both kind of camps will have their arguments about why they choose to do what they do. At the end of the day, as I say, it doesn't desperately matter where you get the DNA fragments from. So I'm not convinced it matters 100% one way or another. If you actually look, if you go back a few slides to the kind of product timeline, the very first polynucleotide products, they were using human placental stem cells. But then they obviously realized that there's things like the Human Tissues Act in Europe, which means you have to sign about 4 trillion bits of paper to be allowed to use human tissue. Human placental stem cells are quite difficult to get hold of. So they decided that actually that was not the easiest way of doing things. So that's why they kind of moved on to fish. But as I say, Mastelli used trout. If you look at some of the other companies, so Regeneration, one of the other big companies based in South Korea, they use wild type salmon. That's actually where the video is from. And then there's another company in Europe called Polynucleotides that use salmon as well. So it's a bit variable. It depends on the company. But so when you've got these DNA fragments and you are going to inject them into the skin, like we're allowed to do, what are they actually going to do? And they have kind of two main kind of mechanisms of action. They have this kind of initial viscoelastic moisturizing action due to their kind of hydrophilic nature. But then they also have this kind of bioregenerative action, which is actually the kind of bit we're a little bit more interested in. That's the thing that we're interested in. So when you inject them in, they are hydrophilic. They will bind kind of lots of water. So you do get this kind of, immediate hydration, and if you're attracting water into the skin, that's good for all sorts of things. And it does kind of plump things up a bit, but that's actually not their kind of most interesting function. The most interesting function is this kind of bioregenerative action. So you get an increase in the fibroblast viability, you get an increase in fibroblast number, you get an increase in fibroblast function. And obviously we know the fibroblasts are the skin cells that make all your extracellular matrix. So if you increase how healthy they are and how numerate they are and how well they're working, you get an improvement in your extracellular matrix. So that's kind of basically how they work. Getting into it a little bit more detail, we're actually waiting for these polynucleotides to get broken down back down into the individual mononucleotides. So you've got kind of natural endogenous DNAases kind of in your tissue that break down kind of, knackered old cells and kind of recycle them. And they will also break down the polynucleotides that we inject, and they'll break them down into oligonucleotides and then all the way down into mononucleotides. And it's those mononucleotides that actually have their effect. What they do is they attach to this adenosine A2A receptor on the fibroblasts within the dermis, and from there they activate kind of multiple intracellular pathways. And this is just a nice little kind of schematic kind of picture telling you kind of how they work and what they do. So on the left hand side of the screen, as you look at it, you've got the things that happen when it attaches to that adenosine A2A receptor, and then on the kind of right hand side, as you look at it, you've got this kind of salvage pathway, and these are the kind of two proposed mechanisms of how it helps with kind of skin health. So when it attaches to the receptors, you get a decrease in pro-inflammatory cytokines, you get an increase in anti-inflammatory cytokines. It stimulates vascular endothelial growth factor, which helps with the angiogenesis and growth of kind of new small blood vessels into the skin. So you've got a better kind of food supply. And it also kind of works directly on the fibroblasts to stimulate the formation of extracellular matrix. So kind of more collagen, more elastin, more of your own natural hyaluronic acid. But then there's this kind of salvage pathway. We know that our DNA undergoes about 100,000 instances of damage on a daily basis. And our body expends an awful lot of time and energy repairing all this DNA damage that's ongoing. And in order to repair that DNA damage, it needs new mononucleotides to fix the broken DNA. And we've just injected a whole ton of polynucleotides. So you've essentially just given it this big pool of kind of mononucleotides to help fix the DNA damage. So that's the kind of thought as to how it helps give you more viable fibroblasts and kind of healthier fibroblasts. And also increase with kind of epithelial kind of turnover, because you've got lots of spare DNA to make new cells as well. So they're the kind of two proposed mechanisms of how it works. And when you look at the studies, it does show that you get an increase in the fibroblast viability within 2 or 3 days, but certainly kind of over the course of the first week after injection, you get an increase in the viability of fibroblasts. You get an increase in the number of fibroblasts. This is a really technical test. I like technical tests. Like, I'm blonde and my background is in emergency medicine, so everything has to be super simple for me. And this is a kind of super simple test. You get a whole load of fibroblasts and you put them on a slide and you just create a scratch down the middle to create a little gap, like you can see on kind of slide C. And then you bathe them in whatever product you want to test, and you sit and wait for how long it takes those fibroblasts to grow back across that gap that you made. And you can see, I'll show you the full pictures in a later slide, but you can see with the cells stimulated with the polynucleotides, they grow back across that kind of gap much quicker. So you get a proliferation of the fibroblasts as well. And you do get an improvement in the extracellular matrix. They do kind of promote an increase in a better organization of collagen fibers. This is just a nice histological slide of a wound. Not really a lot happens. You've got a big gap between the two bits where you've sliced it. We know that hyaluronic acid stimulates a bit of neocollagenesis. We've known that for a while. So you do get some kind of collagen regrowth across that gap with just pure hyaluronic acid. But if you put some polynucleotides in there, you obviously get an even better kind of bridging of that gap. So it's kind of quite nice. You know, it wouldn't be a true scientific kind of talk without some kind of pinky purple histology slides. I think all talks need to have some pinky purple histology slides where we all kind of sit at the back of the lecture theatre and kind of nod sagely and go, yes, pinky purple histology slides. But again, you can see in the control, we've kind of created a little scar. There's a gap between the kind of two edges of the skin. Again, we put some hyaluronic acid in there and it gets a bit better. We put some polynucleotides in there and we get a kind of much better organization of that wound and that tissue repair. So overall, you get this kind of hydration and kind of increased kind of dermal turgor. You get an increase in the fibroblast growth and viability. You get an increase in collagen synthesis and elastin synthesis, and you get increased bioregeneration. There is some evidence that it helps dampen down, or at least kind of help control the melanocytes within the skin as well. So you kind of get better control of pigmentation. So there's lots and lots of kind of useful things that are going on in there.
So is there an anti-inflammatory component with this?
Yeah, you get you get an increase in kind of anti-inflammatory cytokines and a decrease in pro-inflammatory cytokines. So
okay.
Yeah, one of the things we found, and I think there might be a picture in the results or kind of like before and afters, we found some really interesting results in patients with things like rosacea and periocular dermatitis and things like that, all the kind of all kind of inflammatory conditions. It's not something I would kind of go telling my patients it's a great treatment for, but it's certainly kind of something else you can kind of throw into the mix, and we have had some nice results. So yeah, you can get some nice results with it. So is there any actual evidence for all this stuff that I'm talking about? And we've seen kind of a couple of the little pictures and slides as we've gone along, but I think before we dive into the evidence too much, I think we probably need to think about what we're actually trying to achieve. And this is a paper by a friend of mine, Kate Goldie, looking at what people kind of want from skin treatments. And they basically want, they want skin health, they want skin quality, they want more firmness, they want a nice even skin tone, they want skin surface evenness, they want nice smooth skin, and they want this kind of skin glow, the kind of undefinable kind of glowing skin that it's difficult to kind of put numbers on and kind of figures to, but that's what people are looking for. So have we got any evidence that we can do this? Yeah, again, if you look at polynucleotides, because they've been around for a lot longer than everyone thinks they have, there is actually a reasonable amount of evidence out there. A lot of it is kind of small studies, say Mastelli with the original company kind of making these things, and it is a small Italian company. It's still run by two of the Mastellis, and I've met them and they're lovely, but it is kind of quite a small company. So when you're looking at, you know, companies like the likes of kind of AbbVie, who can throw a couple of $1 billion at a study without even thinking about it, you know, these guys are trying to do studies and trying to prove the evidence base, but it is kind of quite a small company and haven't got quite as much money to throw about as perhaps they would like to. So there's lots of studies out there, but they are kind of quite small. So, you know, we do have to take some of this evidence with a kind of slight pinch of salt, but, you know, I was convinced enough by the evidence, and I've certainly been convinced enough by the results. So if you bother to look through PubMed, you'll find 80 odd papers. There's probably getting on for 100 papers now, because as it's become more popular, there's obviously more studies kind of published. So there's probably getting on for a kind of 100 studies now. Obviously, I'm not going to bore your senses by going through all 100, but I thought it would probably be useful to go through a few of them just to kind of give you an idea of what's out there. One of these studies I thought was quite interesting was the one on acne scarring. Acne scarring is one of those things that's kind of really difficult to treat. We get lots of patients coming in with acne scarring, and we haven't got any kind of one particular treatment that's great for it. You know, you can get some improvement with lasers and peels and needling and all sorts of other things that you can kind of get a bit of improvement with, but it is usually a case of just throwing everything at it and getting some improvement. So it was like, is this another kind of weapon in our armament that we can throw at acne scarring? So I thought this was kind of quite an interesting study. Again, smallish study, 20 people, 10 people went into the placebo arm, 10 people into the polynucleotides arm. You stick some salty water into some people, you stick some polynucleotides into some other people, and you do a repeat treatment after 3 weeks, and you see what it all looks like over the next kind of couple of months. So a fairly simple study, randomized control, double blind. So kind of quite a nice study, but obviously not massive numbers. But you can see, you know, this is looking at the skin texture, and you can see this is kind of done with an Antera 3D scanner. So it looks at kind of skin texture. And, you know, you get the impression that there's certainly less red and blue dots in the kind of post-polynucleotide. So it's kind of smoother skin. So that's kind of quite nice. And again, we've reduced those skin depressions by using polynucleotides. So overall, they found that you got an improvement in the texture objectively and subjectively. The patients were all kind of fairly happy with it. And, you know, I think sometimes it's quite important for our patients, no particular complications. You get a little bit of swelling, you occasionally get a bit of bruising because we're sticking needles in your face, but other than that, it doesn't seem to cause any problems, which makes it a very kind of acceptable treatment to our patients. We get some nice results. We don't tend to cause them any problems. So, you know, that's a nice treatment.
Right.
Steve, do you know how that was that injected like a skin booster? Was it injected in the little acne depressions? Do you know how that was done in that study by chance?
Yeah. So that was a study done in Italy. So it was done kind of out of the kind of Mastelli's backyard, and they use a kind of multiple intradermal boluses. I think there is a little video later on in the talk that kind of shows you the injection techniques, but essentially for treating face, we just kind of grid it out and just do lots and lots of tiny little microboluses, kind of intradermal.
Okay.
So the next little study I just wanted to kind of mention was again looking at a kind of another tricky area to treat, another one of those areas that we got lots of patients kind of coming to talk to us about, and it's not always the easiest area to treat. So that's the kind of periocular area. And just to make sure everyone is still awake, I've got a question for you, and you can chuck your answers in the chat or in the questions or wherever you want to put it. How many times a year do we blink?
Ooh.
18 million.
Is it 1.5 million? Is it 16 million? Is it 18 million? Anyone out there want to have a little guess? Or Laurie, get it? We've got an 18 million.
Yeah.
I love that there's someone in the chat called Crystal Duff. What a great name. I love that.
Oh, I can't even see the chat. Darn it. Okay. We blink a lot. Oh no.
6 million.
6 million.
And there's someone out there called Trisha's iPhone 11.
Here, I'll figure it out. Wait, hold on.
They're on the iPhone
Chat
17.
GPT. Cheat.
Don't cheat. Someone's gone for an answer that isn't there. That's good. I like that. There you go. So most people have gone for 18 million. The bad news is that you're all wrong. So we blink on average 20,000 times a day. So if you add that up by about a year, you get to about 6 and a bit million times a year. So if you think about the skin around your eye, you do a cadaveric anatomy course, and you'll have done this thing where you're kind of teaching people about the skin under the eye, and you kind of like you dissect off the skin and you lift it up and you can see through it.
Yeah.
That skin around your eye is so thin. It's basically the thinnest area of skin anywhere on the body.
Yep.
And we bend it and crease it 6 million times a year. And then we're surprised when people come in and kind of talk to us and go, I don't like the fine lines and wrinkles I've got around my eyes. It's like, well, yeah, just stop blinking and you'll be fine. But that's not easy. So, is there any treatment we've got that's kind of quite good for it? We had tear trough fillers, and tear trough fillers are okay if you've got volume deficit, but if it's just skin, they're a bit rubbish. Peels, you have to be kind of fairly ballsy to get that close to eyes with peels, but I know some people do. Microneedling's okay, and then you're into kind of surgical options. So anything we've got that would be between those two is kind of quite good. So the guys at Mastelli thought, right, let's stick some around eyes and see what happens. So again, it was a fairly simple study. They just picked the next 48 patients in a row that rocked up to an aesthetics clinic in Italy complaining about their periocular region. And it didn't matter what they were complaining about. If you turned up during that period and you were one of those 48 patients, whatever you were complaining about, you got some polynucleotides. So if you were complaining of fine lines or crepey skin or volume loss, you just got put into this study and you got some free polynucleotides. So they did 3 treatments 3 weeks apart, and then had a look at all the patients kind of 2 to 4 weeks later, just to kind of see what they were doing and how they were. And they managed to decrease people's wrinkle severity by about 50%, which is pretty impressive.
See?
What?
Yeah.
It really is amazing.
If you looked at their overall improvement in their kind of aesthetic severity score, they all kind of got much, much better. And actually everyone's very deep wrinkles completely disappeared. So they went from 12.5% people with very deep wrinkles down to none with very deep wrinkles. And 88%, almost 90% said that whatever they'd gone in to complain about had got better.
Wow.
So whatever they turned up complaining about, 90% of them said it had got better, which I think is kind of quite cool. So anyone who just comes in complaining about their eyes, just stick some polynucleotides in there and it all gets better.
Right to try, Laurie. Right.
Yeah, and we're looking at we're really looking at like fibroblasts, mobilization, collagen, elastin. We're looking at dermal thickening, right? We're looking at really creating a little bit thicker dermis.
I mean, for those people in comparison, because in the US, people really at this point in time, probably injectable wise, can only use your PRPs, PRFs.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably have done that in the past. What have you seen just in your own practice, just in comparison from just using polynucleotides compared to like a PRP, PRF? And if you've ever actually done them in combination, does that, synergistically work together nicer?
I mean, it should do. We've certainly, again, I'm trying to think if there's any in the before and after pictures. Certainly in things like hair restoration, a combination of PRP and polynucleotides works quite nicely, even more so if you chuck exosomes into the mix as well.
Right.
My issue with PRP has always been the kind of lack of consistency. Yep. So my thoughts with PRP is that most of our patients who need PRP need it because they're getting old and they haven't got enough of their own growth factors knocking about, and they're getting to be my sort of age and their growth factors are knackered.
Yeah,
so
knackered. They're knackered.
Yeah, there's only so much you can concentrate on. And if you're like me and you're still up at 20 to 2 in the morning chatting to random people in America, then my PRP tomorrow would not be very, it would be platelet weak plasma, not platelet rich plasma. Whereas with the polynucleotides, every time I get a syringe out of the cupboard, I know exactly what's in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of consistency for me that kind of made me a bit happier with this. If a lot of the evidence for PRP is done in kind of young, fit, healthy athletes whose platelets, whose PRP is fantastic.
Yeah.
But
and people here in the United States, a lot of people still use their PRP, PRF, Easy Gel, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it really was something that was popular 10 years ago without all the new research we have on exosomes and PDRN and PN. So I think people, I want to have a national, what do you call it? Centrifuge chucking day. I want a national centrifuge chucking day. Throw it away because it's not consistent.
Well, I think that
it's not consistent.
That is the whole thing. It is not consistent. There actually is a company here in the U.S. actually called True Dose, where it actually will do AI, where you actually do a finger prick and you actually test it.
Yeah.
And then it'll tell you kind of what quality of PRP or platelets you have. And it'll actually say, are you using for aesthetics? Are you using for orthopedics? Are you using this? And it'll tell you how much to draw out so it can spin it out so you get the right amount of PRP to be injecting. So That's it. Actually,
You
interesting.
get more PRP, but is it actually how much growth factor does your crappy platelets have? Like, so it's like
Yeah.
if you're not healthy and you're older, then you're gonna have crappy growth factors.
I mean,
You
that's
can
true.
draw this much, or you can draw this much, right?
Oh yeah, for
So I
sure.
don't know, but I think I agree, Stephen. I think that it's one of those things that's very inconsistent, and I think that's why we're all really looking for something where we have PNs or exosomes or secretomes that we can have that
Yeah.
consistency and we know what we're giving our patient every time. And it doesn't depend on their health. It doesn't depend on their body to take like anything that's kind of platelet derived is only going to
Yeah.
work in the first phase of healing. So you're counting on their body to do the rest. So
Yeah.
we want to do it all for them. And yeah, I think that's what's good about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to speed through some of these slides just so I can get some of the results, because I appreciate we're kind of
Good.
a little bit short on time. So this is just a study looking at the number of reactive oxygen species. So they seem to mop up reactive oxygen species as well. And this is kind of just a repeat showing the increase in fibroblasts and the increase in kind of fibroblast extracellular matrix. This is the study I kind of talked about with the kind of scratch test. So you can see again on the left-hand side of the slide, you've got where they did nothing to it, in the middle where you put polynucleotides, and over on the right there's polynucleotides plus hyaluronic acid. And you can see that with the PN plus HA, you get kind of much improved bridging of that kind of scratch test that we mentioned. Does it work with other treatments? So this is one where they kind of did some filler, but put some polynucleotides in first. And I'll whiz through these, but on here you can see who knew there was a nasolabial fold severity score? Who knew that? People will come up with scores for any old rubbish, won't they? So,
Yes.
Right.
Of course.
but if you stick some polynucleotides in there first, you can see that the nasolabial fold severity score is better on the treated one and not so good on the untreated one. And this was kind of done kind of on split face. So kind of one side got polys, one side didn't, and they both got some filler in. So you get a better result because you've got more extracellular matrix probably to hang on to your filler for a bit longer. Yeah, so overall, we've got this kind of fantastic treatment that improves your skin well-being, improves your kind of self-repair. And because it's just working on your natural kind of repair mechanisms, it's your own skin, but better. So yeah, it's a nice treatment to use. So quickly, these are the products we have in Europe and the rest of the civilized world that you guys
What's the difference between them? Because I know, like with Regeneron, they have their eye, they have their healing essence, and they have their S, and they have HB1, which has hyaluronic acid. The difference between the what I know of is there's all 2% polynucleotide, but they have a different in viscosity level. So the higher viscosity is scars. They say has more robustness with rejuvenative properties, but it is going to burn a lot more. That's why they created the eye for injecting on the eye, less viscosity in the aspect of it. Is that kind of pretty much the same here?
So, very similar, yeah. So the side effects you get are concentration dependent, and the side effects you get, it's hydrophilic. So the side effects you get are some swelling. And I'm not going to lie, it's a bit stingy. So the more of it you put in, the more stingy it's going to be. So Polynucleotide, which is the one in the kind of orange yellow box in the top corner, that was the original one. That's kind of the high concentration one. They realized that using a high concentration one that is a bit stingy and draws in a whole load of water around your eye is probably not going to be a desperately sensible idea. So they do a lower concentration one called Polynucleotide Eye. And then they do this one, the one in the pink box kind of up there, is called Newest. This is my thing. So when they named Polynucleotide marketing department on the ball, polynucleotides in aesthetics, when they named Newest, marketing department on holiday. It's called Newest because it's their newest product. I know. But here we go. So the difference with Newest is it's got a lower concentration of polynucleotides, but it's got some uncross-linked hyaluronic acid in it as well. So you get a little bit of both. You get some.
What is the concentration of the Polynucleotide?
So Polynucleotide is 20 milligrams per mil. Polynucleotide I is 7.5 milligrams per mil. Newest is 10 milligrams per mil plus 10 milligrams of HA.
Okay.
Polynucleotide Hair, also 7.5 milligrams. It's exactly the same as Polynucleotide I. It just comes in a kind of orangey brown box instead of the green box, but it's identical.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Should just be eye and hair.
Yeah. So, if you put hair around your eyes, you won't grow hairy eyes. So don't worry. So, as I was saying before, we tend to just kind of grid it out and do little intradermal microboluses. You can, if you want, use a cannula. And again, around the eyes, we just kind of grid it out and do 1,000,001 little tiny microboluses. So you do look a little bit like you've been attacked by a swarm of angry bees. But those little lumps and bumps tend to settle within 24, 36 hours. So it's not a kind of massive issue. Yeah, get the polynucleotides into the dermis where the fibroblasts live. Seems logical. Might even have a little video. So yeah, this is what we do. We tend to just grid it out, decide where we're going to go. Little intradermal injections. You know, we're all experienced injectors. We're aware of what sticking needles into skin looks like, but it is that simple.
Have you ever mixed them with any biostimulators?
With what, sorry?
Mix them with any biostimulators?
Not
Like
at the same time.
Sculptra,
Harmonica, Sculptra.
Yeah, not at the same time, but because my thought process is that these are going to improve the viability and number of your fibroblasts. So what I probably want to do is do all of these treatments first, and then when I've got loads and loads of really healthy fibroblasts that are working really well, then I want to hammer them with some biostimulators that are going to stimulate my fibroblasts. So I tend to do the polys first, and then come back with some
That makes sense.
with some biostimulators, and we're getting some really nice results with a PDLLA called Juveluc and Lanisna, which I think got FDA approval last week.
Oh wow, nice.
I think. So you guys will get to play with that soon as well. And it's generally we recommend kind of 3 treatments, about 3 or 4 weeks apart.
Right.
And we can get some really nice results with that. Speaking of which, let's actually have a look. See, everyone's bored now, so we've got some pictures for you now. Wake up and look at some pictures.
Nobody's bored, don't worry.
So these are the kind of traditional kind of accordion lines that we see quite a lot in clinic, and everyone hates them, and they're quite difficult to treat. And we've got some fairly nice results there. So we got this is some acne scarring, and again we've got some. Oh, it's gone. Hang on, we'll go back on see if we can get that. We're going to get the acne scarring one. Remote slides. There you go. So that's acne scarring, which is quite nice. This is a patient kind of just looking at the overall improvement in their skin health using their kind of quantificator. So it's just a nice improvement in skin health. This is another page. So this is one of our faculty in the UK, Raquel, has got some really nice results. So this is a patient who's just had 1 treatment, and you can see that improvement in kind of skin tone.
Look at the rosacea reduction.
Yeah. That's 1 treatment as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And again, it's those kind of accordion lines and skin quality that everyone hates and are really difficult to treat. We've got some nice results there. Do I think she's probably had a little bit of cheek filler as well? Maybe, but. And we were talking about those inflammatory conditions, so like the rosacea, and you can see kind of the redness on this patient's cheeks as it has got much better from that face treatment, which is quite nice. This is using a 3D quantificator, kind of 3D camera, and you can see the kind of fine lines under the eye, looking much better. I think there might even be a kind of 3D overlay of that if we get the pictures. There we go. So you can see that those kind of fine lines have improved quite nicely. This is the patient I was telling you about. So some of you will know David Eccleston. He's a KOL for, I don't know, anyone who'll pay him money. So he's a friend of mine. I'm allowed to say that.
I love it.
So David is a KOL for Everlust these days, and also for Mastelli. And this is his patient with the periocular dermatitis, who actually just went to see him about the kind of skin quality. She wasn't that bothered about the inflammation because she'd had every treatment known to humanity. Wow. And the only thing that ever made the itching and the redness settle down was when she was on reasonably high dose oral steroids. And as soon as she stopped them, it came back. So she'd kind of given up on ever getting to the bottom of that, but wanted to improve the skin condition. So went and had a polynucleotides, and then phoned David's clinic about an hour later. And you know, when you get that phone call off a patient an hour after they've been in clinic going, I need to speak to the doctor, and you kind of go, oh crap, what's happened?
Right.
So he was like, oh my God, what's happened with this patient? And she basically just said, I just wanted to thank you because this is the first time that my eyes haven't itched in about 7 years. So within an hour of the treatment being done, he'd cured the itch. And this is a couple of weeks later. It was really nice. Certainly, I wouldn't sell it as a treatment that's kind of anti-inflammatory, but you know, it's something to kind of think about. This is a male patient. You know what male patients are like. We don't like pain. We don't like to admit that we get filler. So this chap definitely needs some mid-face filler, but he's a bloke, so he's never going to get mid-face filler. So we threw some polynucleotides at him, and we got some nice results there. He still needs some mid-face filler, but he's a boy, so he's not going to get that done. This is my favorite result. This is one of my patients. This is someone who had, in the UK, as you guys probably know, it's the Wild West, and anyone can pick up a syringe and stick stuff in you, and anyone can buy some cheap knockoff radiofrequency microneedling device from China for a couple of $1,000s and do this to people. This is 6 months post-treatment.
Oh, snap.
So these are scars, and if you look closely, they're hypertrophic scars. So these are intradermal scars from some cheap knockoff radiofrequency machine. And this, as I say, is 6 months after treatment. So we thought some vascular laser might be quite nice, but she was super not keen on having energy-based devices fired at her face, funnily enough. So we went with, let's see what we can do with injectably type things. So we threw lots and lots of polynucleotides at her, and then we combined it with lots and lots of exosomes. And that's her results.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see that. I played around on actual keloided scars with it, injected. It's been amazing. It's so beautiful.
So we got
That's awesome.
So we got some really nice results with her. There's about a year between those pictures, so it's not been a quick win, but you know, got that.
So how many sessions? You just injected intradermally?
Yeah, so we 4 sessions of polynucleotides, and then I kind of lost touch with her a little bit because she went off to have microneedling with exosomes by my skin therapist. So I'd only kind of briefly see her every now and again. So I hadn't seen her for about 3 or 4 months, and then she came in looking like that, and I was like, "Shit, that's actually pretty impressive."
Awesome.
Very impressive.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
She keeps bringing us presents. She keeps bringing me cake and wine. So if next
time... see, she's super thankful. That's awesome.
So in conclusion, we've got these kind of natural molecules. They're extracted from trout sperm in this case, and the result is natural tissue regeneration, which is what a lot of our patients are kind of looking for. That I don't know what it's like over in your part of the world, but certainly over here we are starting to see people kind of shying away from filler a little bit. So natural things that just improve your own kind of healing capabilities are nice, and they work on all the kind of different things that people are bothered about with their skin. And we've not really seen anything much in the way of side effects, which is quite nice.
That's amazing.
So if you quickly snap that link, that takes you to a little review paper that tells you all the things you ever need to know about polynucleotides. But I do always like to finish.
Go back.
No, we'll get there. I do always like to finish with this little story, which I think you guys have heard before. So this is a patient of mine. He was out in London a couple of years ago.
Was that you? No, this is you. This happened to you. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
He'd had a couple of candies, and he was out in the middle of London at silly o'clock in the morning, and he got mugged, and he had his watch stolen. And as they dragged his watch off, he stumbled to the ground and bounced his face off the curb. And he ended up getting 28 stitches in his face. So we started putting polynucleotides into the wounds about 36 hours after the original injury. And I don't know if you guys have got me on camera, but that's what this patient looked like at the time.
Oh,
wow.
With his 28 stitches in his face. This is what it looks like. Let me just get the zoom close up. So it's looking quite good. So it's looking all right.
Yeah.
So you guys, you just injected it right into the tissue.
Yep.
The healing tissue. Wow. That's
now,
awesome.
You know when I said it's a little bit stingy.
Ouch.
Do not inject polynucleotides into it really hurts.
Ouch.
So, yeah, it's a bit stingy injecting it into your own nose, but no one else was feeling brave enough to inject it into my nose 36 hours after the injury. So it was left up to me. But there you go.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
Got it. Awesome. This is so cool.
With 5 minutes to go. How good was that?
I know.
Love it.
That's
I love it.
Amazing. No, I mean, definitely. I mean, I use a lot of Regeneration. I actually went to the global conference for Regeneration last year. I actually got to go and catch salmon.
Did you get to milk salmon though? That's the question.
They didn't let us milk the salmon. We were there while they were milking the salmon.
So as far as getting FDA approval, do you think it's going to be, is it the Regeneration or is it going to be The
Finest.
Planist.
The rumor I've heard is that it's Regeneration. As I say, that they're a kind of much bigger South Korean company.
Okay.
And as you know, getting FDA approval is it's quite frequently a case of who's got the money to kind of keep chucking at it until you've built up enough evidence that the FDA start to believe.
Right.
So I think Regeneration are kind of in the lead with the amount of evidence they're managing to throw at the FDA. So I suspect that will be the one that gets
Well,
approved
I
first.
have to go back to them and talk to them.
Yeah,
Well,
we can get these here legally in the United States now. We can get Regeneron here. We just can't inject it legally.
Yeah.
So we can use it topically.
I think the Regeneration topical product you can get. So the issue is the polynucleotide molecules that are in the injectables have a molecular weight of about 1,000 kilodaltons, which means if you apply them topically, they're just too big to get through the skin.
Yes.
So you need specifically designed topical products. So Regeneration do some specifically designed topical products. Mastelli do as well. So if you're using those and microneedling them in, they're using kind of smaller polynucleotide molecules, so they will get in. If you're just buying the injectable and spreading it on the skin and hoping that microneedling it in is going to work, then it isn't going to work.
It might be hydrating if it's got hyaluronic acid.
It does, to me, it does work up to a certain point. Maybe not as effective as definitely as far as injecting it. But I mean, we have seen some nice results just
As I say,
with
if you've got the specific microneedling serums, they're using a smaller molecular weight.
No, we're actually using both. I mean, we're actually using the healing essence because they have their PDRN serums for microneedling, and then they have their healing essence, which is their base, like the Plinus. It's your 2% polynucleotide that they typically inject into the U.S. But people are using that for microneedling. We've used it for microneedling and seen some decent results with regards to that.
Yeah.
Question, our audience is like, we're newer, like a lot of people are newer to all of the salmon sperm and stuff. They hear a lot about it. Can you explain to everybody the difference between polynucleotide or PN and PDRN? Like, how are those different? We hear about both of those.
Yeah, so people use the terms kind of interchangeably, but they are actually kind of subtly different. So polynucleotides tend to be kind of double-strand DNA, so kind of actual fragments of DNA. And as I say, they tend to be about 1,000 kilodaltons, whereas PDRN tends to be single-strand DNA, and it tends to be much smaller molecules, so usually in the range of about kind of 200 to 300 kilodaltons. So a lot of the studies are done on PDRN, which are the kind of smaller single strands, and some of the studies are done on PN. They're probably fairly interchangeable, but we don't know that 100% for sure. The original products were PDRN. In Europe, they are approved by the European Health Regulator for use as a medicine. So they have to be prescribed, whereas polynucleotides are registered as a medical device because Europe's weird and we have some strange rules. So in Europe, if you want to use PDRNs, it's a medicine and it has to be prescribed. If you want to use PNs, you can just buy them and inject them. But the PNs are too big to get through the skin. PDRNs are small enough to get through the skin.
Okay.
Interesting.
Question: has it been shown to affect the DNA in recipient cells, such as improving mitochondrial function or repairing somatic mutations? Anything with regards to that? I mean, that's the one things that people ask, like, oh, this is DNA. Is it going to merge into your own DNA?
You look at it as foreign and destroy DNA that,
DNA is DNA. So, the fragments are too small that they're going to cause any kind of problems in terms of kind of integrating your own DNA into your own DNA, and you grow gills and the ability to breathe. That would be nice, but it's not good. They're small enough fragments that they're not going to do that. They're basically just chopped up bits of DNA. As I say, you could get the DNA from wherever you like, really. You could use human DNA if you wanted, but there's all sorts of ethical quandaries about that. You could use tree DNA or whatever you wanted, as long as it's got those 4 kind of nitrogenous bases in there. It doesn't really matter where it comes from, and they're too small to cause any kind of problems.
Right. How do you evaluate with so many, like, there are a couple of PDRN and PN companies out there. What do you, when you're evaluating a company, what are you looking for as far as marketplace? And quality versus pricing is always going to be that whole thing. But how do you wade through all of the stuff that's out there? Just because the US is going to be a newer marketplace versus Europe, Asia, they've been playing with it for a while. So we're going to be hit with a a slew of different things. So people are going to always wonder, well, what makes yours better?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I think whenever anyone kind of approaches me with a new treatment and goes, "Oh, we've got this fantastic new treatment, you should definitely try sticking this weird DNA into your patients," my first question is, have you actually got any studies that show that this does what you say it does? And when you start looking at the studies for polynucleotides, you notice they all, like, the vast majority of the early studies come out of Italy. And then over the last few years, they've started to get more studies coming out of South Korea. And if you look at all the studies coming out of Italy, they all happen to come out of San Remo, which is where the Mastelli factory is. So all the studies, initial studies, were done on Mastelli products. So if you look at the kind of data that's out there, the vast majority of the studies were done using Mastelli product. Obviously, the ones now coming out of South Korea are done on things like Regeneration and whatever the other ones that come from over there. Obviously, whose names have escaped me because it's 2 o'clock in the morning. But it's always, look at the evidence base. Who's actually doing the studies? Who's providing the product for the studies? Who's showing that their product is safe and is clean and is doing what we want it to do? And that seemed to be Mastelli. Then we look at things like in Europe, we have the CE mark, which is the kind of mark, like our little mark of safety. It's not quite kind of FDA approval. It's not quite kind of European medicines, but it's like we have proved this product is safe. And there are about 4 or 5 different European brands, but there are only 2 that have a CE mark. So all the ones that don't have a CE mark just immediately just disappeared off my radar. It's like, if you can't even be bothered to prove that your product is safe on a basic level, then I'm not sticking it in my patients. So CE mark, the evidence that's out there. Then obviously things like FDA approval is when it kind of gets over to your part of the world.
All right. I think
this has been great.
This has been amazing. I think we definitely, there's lots of questions. I wish we could get them all answered for you guys. Well, we'll try to get some of them answered. If not, send them to Dr. Land, send them to us. We definitely can answer it. I definitely have been playing around with the Rejuvenation product myself here in the US. I've gotten it injected myself in Korea. There are a lot of cool things that I heard when I went to the global conference. So hopefully I'll have to go back to the company and see if they really are close to FDA approvals. I heard it was still a couple years away. So it would be a real surprise to me if it really was only 6 months away. But the Regeneration products are a great product. The Polynucleotides products I've heard of, the Mastelli products. It's just I haven't been able to get it. The Regeneration products are here. They've actually are topical usages, guys. Topical usage. They have a skincare line, great. But the healing essence and their topical stuff with a PDRN for microneedling is really, really nice. But we'll get back to that on another. We'll probably have to do another polynucleotide part 2 to kind of talk more about what we're seeing, how we're using it, and stuff like that. So
yeah, this is exciting stuff.
I was going to say, obviously, there's lots of questions kind of over in the chat box I've not had time to answer. So, like, if you find me on Instagram and just ping questions at me, I'm usually fairly happy to answer them. It might be after I've had some sleep. If I don't answer it immediately, it's because I'm in bed.
Yes.
I will come back on and answer questions.
Yeah, and it's your Instagram is Dr. Land, just Dr. Land, or is Dr. Stephen Land?
Dr._Land.
Dr._Land. Okay, so that's his Instagram. So you just message him. Perfect. Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So much, Dr. Land. Our next webinar was it November 11th. It's called The Great Dissolve: Correcting Mistakes or Creating New Ones.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about the dissolving trend in the US, and whether or not to do it or not, and what to do about it. So that will be November 11th at 5 p.m. for AI Live, our next one. And lastly, we are doing an AI webinar on Renuva. So you guys that are interested in Renuva, we go through it all. We talk about it. We do an injection with regards to that. That's going to be December 16th at 6 p.m. But if you guys have any questions, reach out to one of us, learn at theaestheticimmersion.com, or check our website out at theaestheticimmersion.com.
We got it.
All right. We'll see you at the next AI Live.
Thanks for joining, guys.
For joining us. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, click on the like below and subscribe to the Aesthetic Immersion channel. And don't waste time with the other ones. Just watch our other videos.